Morgan. Yeah, bye.
I know what it is. I haven't seen it. I'm going to sit here with y'all.
Hi.
You look very cute.
Wait,
oh, you want me to get that shirt? Turned it off. I was going to play the drums for you. Hello, everyone.
You're on, Mike.
welcome to panel. Before we jump into some of the incredible questions that some of you guys have been putting in over the past couple weeks, Mike's going to pray for us.
I would love to.
I knew he would.
Oh, let's pray. God, just thank you so much for tonight. Thank you for your love and your grace. I thank you for each person that I get to sit up here with, and just how incredible of an honor and privilege it is to sit before these beautiful and incredible students. And I just pray you lead our conversation tonight. Holy Spirit, lead us, guide us. And I pray that this would just be the beginning of a conversation. That there would be more conversations after this, and more and more and more connection and talking about these things that are so dear to us and to our hearts, because they involve relationships with one another and our love being poured out to one another. May that be the beautiful part of tonight. It teaches us and leads us to love one another better. To your name we pray. Amen.
So you guys had some really good questions, and maybe you know this, maybe you don't, but we're actually going to be splitting them up between tonight and next Thursday as well. It'll be part 2 of the panel night. So if it doesn't get covered tonight, it doesn't mean, maybe it's not coming, but it might be coming next week. We'll see. But tonight we're going to talk about questions that have to do, just like generic questions, but we're also going to talk about questions that have to do with friendship relationships. We're going to talk about questions that have to do with singleness, maybe about breakups, as well as a bunch of dating questions that came in. And so to start, our first question, which I thought was really, I'm so glad someone asked this. How should I approach a friend who is kind and respectful to me, but not others? And then I did.
She said, whoa.
Yeah. Who wants to start?
Okay. Tara, I'd be like, okay. One of the things, yeah, the red letter. Jesus movies, like the red letters. Okay. That's a joke, y'all. Sorry. Here's the thing. I think this is something that could happen to any of us. It could be actually us. Like, this could be us. This could be me. And we even played out a funny scenario of like, I'm really nice to Morgan and I love Morgan really well, but then I'm very mean to Brandon. And Morgan would have to figure out a way to come and talk to me about that. And some of y'all laughed at this, but some of y'all got mad because you're protective of Brandon. You're just like, yes. How dare you even say that? It's like, Severina's over here ready to kill me or something. I didn't even look at you because I'm scared. But I think this is one of the things that we do. Obviously, if you are in a relationship with this person, they're a great friend. Like, they're kind and respectful to you, they're caring. You are close with this person. And so one of the things that I think is so true in these types of situations is you have the ability to actually spend time with that person and talk to them about this specifically. That you've noticed this in their life. And a lot of times we fear that in friendships, that like, oh, I don't want to talk to them, I don't want to offend them, I don't want to hurt them, they're such a great friend. And there is a thing, I think, that you can talk to them and encourage them in that. That you start this conversation with them and talk about what a great friend they've been to you, how incredible they are to you, and how loving they've been in your life, and how much they mean to you. But then, hey, but I love you so much that I want to talk to you about this, because I've seen this in your life, and you're incredibly rude to other people. And so it's like this thing of like, wow, you encouraged me, and who knows how they're going to react, but it's like, they might not even realize that. And sometimes I don't realize that the way I'm treating someone and joking around or something like that is hurting them. And I love it when someone comes and tells me that, because I don't want to hurt anybody, right? The last thing you want to do, especially when it's a friend that like is loving towards you, that means they have the capacity to love. They know what loving a friend looks like. They're just not doing it in this other relationship, and you see that it's hurting them. And so I think that's the way I would go about it, is like you actually just have to get the guts up to actually talk to them. And I've had people pull me in that office and talk to me about things in my life, and every single time I've appreciated it because I needed it. It showed they loved me and cared. And so I don't know if you guys would had anything to that.
We talked about, when we talked about the friendship message, this proverb, 27:6, and it says, wounds from a friend can be trusted, but an enemy multiplies kisses. And if one of your friends, if you notice a pattern, if they're coming to you and just complaining about another person, or even if that person's just not their cup of tea, just not their personality type, and it's just behind their back, to their face, it doesn't matter, it is your responsibility to bring it up. It's not just you should, like it is you being a good friend to bring it up, regardless of their response. And tact matters, like we talked about, but if you don't, you're just an enemy multiplying kisses in their life. And it's almost selfish to allow it to continue. There have been times where people had come to me and just continuously complained about a person in their life, where it just got to the point where I said, we're not actually going to talk about this anymore. Like, it's not that I don't love you and care about what's hard for you, but me allowing you to continue to complain about this person is feeding bitterness and frustration in your life. And I'm not here for that. We haven't got time for that. So I do think it's okay to be blunt in these conversations. And if you put this question in, a really easy way to go about that is, hey, remember that question that we started with tonight? I wrote that because we need to talk. And that's a very like softball start in like a loving, awkward way to lean in and have the talk. Anything else? The next question, how do you know a friendship is real or fake? I saw like 3 people go, just to be honest, I don't really like to play this game. I don't think those are trustworthy labels to put on friends ever. I think we're all capable of incredibly beautiful, authentic moments in friendship, and we're all capable of dropping the ball and not showing up when we're supposed to. And so if you can, I would just avoid these labels altogether. There have been times where my friends show up for me in beautiful ways, and then there have been times where I've gone through hard things, and certain friends haven't, but that doesn't make them a fake friend. It usually has to do with their capacity in the season of life that they're in. And so that's a gracious thing to be that to your friends. And when we talked about looking for qualities of a great friend, the different things we mention is you want to look for someone who's truthful and discreet, someone who's secure, someone who's wise, and someone who's loyal. And I feel like this is what that question is asking. Like, how can you tell if a friend is loyal to me? Is gonna be in it for the long haul with me. Proverbs 17:17. I love the way a translation puts it. Friends love through all kinds of weather. I think that's so beautifully put. And I think longevity is the only test of how to know if a friend is loyal. If they stick around when you're not necessarily a fun friend to be around at times.
Great. I mean, I think one of the greatest compliments I've received from friends is when they've said, thank you for loving me when I was hard to love. And to me, I didn't think they were hard to love in those moments. I was like, no, this was like, I was just walking with you through this stuff. And like, when they've said things like that, like, just thank you for loving me when I was hard to love. And it's like, wow, okay. Like, that's one of the greatest compliments that someone could receive, that you would walk through the tough parts and have longevity in the friendship. So
I would like to say, though, that sometimes the longevity isn't there, but it doesn't mean we can dismiss the times they did show up.
Yeah.
Because certain
Absolutely.
friendships are for a season, and there are a lot of things that play into that, and so that is not where then you can put a label on it and say, well, it was fake, that this one stayed, and so it's real. So there are different things at play there, and sometimes longevity just isn't meant to be, and sometimes it is.
And sometimes friends come back around later when you like don't even expect it, and so yeah.
I would just add to also be vocal about your intentions with the friendship and your expectations in that friendship. If they don't know that's something you want out of the friendship, how are they supposed to be living it out? But also, like, to play off of that, you're going to have different types of friends in your life. The same person that you call to pick you up off the side of the road in the middle of the night because you blew a tire is not necessarily the same friend you're going to call when you're going through something really tough in life. So I think knowing what type of friend and how you show up for each other is very important. So make sure that you are vocal about where you guys are in the friendship and your intentions and your expectations.
Yes.
I will say just one quick thing about that. A lot of times if we try to define friendships by these labels, one mistake makes us want to leave the friendship. Like, oh, you're fake now because you made one mistake. Like, and when you look at this, like even in a dating relationship or a friendship or a marriage, what is it defined by mostly? Like, everybody has a bad day. Everybody has a bad season. Everybody messes up. We're human. And so it's not like, oh, one mistake. It doesn't say, oh, you're fake. Like, no, this is real. You're just got to walk through that, and it's going to be worth it. So.
Yeah. How do you go about saying no if you don't have time to do everything? That's a good one.
Anybody want to answer it from the audience? So. You all go like, oh, no.
Just like out at each other really hard.
Yeah.
So yeah, you want to answer it.
I saw a lot of hands down, like, nah. Say yes to everything.
Come on, CCBT endorsed.
Yeah. The comments from the crowd are not endorsed by CCBT or I stole that from Brandon. He whispered it in my ear. He's the funny one. Marriage is hard, not bad.
When did shirts come in?
Yeah, I don't know. Stickers. It's gonna be yours.
In the works.
Yeah, yeah.
How to go about saying no when you don't have time for everything. Two things come to mind. One is operate within your capacity. And be intentional with the time that you do have, but don't waste your time beating yourself up for the time that you don't have. If you only have an hour on Wednesday evenings from 6 to 7, and that's your window of free time to like carve out for your friends, okay. Fill it with dinner dates with your friends every single week. Be intentional about that time that you do have, but also while you give yourself the grace to operate within whatever capacity you have in a given semester, in a given season, I think it's also really important to speak your intentions to your friends. If the reality of your semester is that you just don't have time to prioritize a couple of friendships, I think what hurts when a friend can't ever spend time with you, because it feels like they just don't care about you. And I think it would go a long way for them to hear from you. The reality of the situation is, like, I love you a lot and wish that I could spend time with you right now, but I can't. Like, I am overbooked. And maybe you did it to yourself, maybe it's just a reality of academics, I don't know. But speak like your intentions. If that's true, if you had the time, you would want to be spending it with them, speak it. I think they need to hear that this isn't your lack of time for them, isn't a reflection of your lack of love for them and care for them in the friendship.
Transparency, if the reason you can't spend time is because, for instance, you're struggling, like, you get to choose who you let into that conversation, but I think there have been times in my own life where people got the message that I didn't care, and really the thing I couldn't say was, I'm drowning here. And it would have done two things. It would have preserved the friendship, but it also would have been a lifeline to me if I could have just been honest about the ways I was able and unable to show up in that season. And people cannot do
That is so true.
Well, I think the reason this is hard is because it's hard to say no because you love people, and some of you guys last semester came to my house on Wednesday nights for family dinner. And none of you have been invited to my house on Wednesday for family dinner this semester, have you? And that's everybody in the room. There's not one person who's like, oh, me, I come every week. It's me. You're in the family. Okay, so, but here's the thing. That's an example of our family sitting down and saying, it's too much in this season. We got to say no to something because we are not protecting our time with just our family. And man, it hurt to say no to that. I struggled a lot with it, but it's right. And it's been the right thing, and it's been beautiful for our family this semester to have that time with one another. But it meant to say yes to my family. I had to say no to welcoming people into our home, and that's the heart of who we are. We want to be hospitable people, but just not on Wednesday nights. And so that's something that saying no is hard, but then I've had a few conversations with people that always came over on Wednesday night, and that's been good conversations because they know, like, this isn't something where we don't want you in our home. This is something that we just need to do at different times because that's a time that's protected for our family. And so that's just an example, but it's hard because you love people. And so, but it's okay. People are going to understand.
What is your Chipotle order? Mike?
Sure, I'll go.
Take notes.
All right, just, just put 10 fingers up real quick. Or like, just put 2 fists up. And if these are in your order, just start putting fingers up, okay? I want to know who's with me. Some of you guys are like, I'm not doing that. Some of you guys are like, yeah, sure. Chicken bowl. We're going chicken bowl. White rice, pinto beans, fajita veggies, mild salsa, corn salsa, cheese, a little sour cream, lettuce, only if it doesn't look disgusting, right? Right? Guac and chips. Anybody all the way? Yeah, we got some 7s back here. Yeah. Got some, oh, me and Kinsey, yes.
All right, Brandon?
All of that minus the pinto beans, I go black beans, and then nevertheless.
Never.
It always looks bad.
Don't rip it.
I know. Voice is America.
It's a useless smell. You don't
And lettuce doesn't come from birds. Don't forget that. We lost them.
I know, I think
Really?
you guys missed an unfortunate discovery about this Chipotle.
Check your legs.
Check your
Don't-
legs. Proverbs 17.
There's
Check your legs.
Check your legs. Are you just gonna pass? Are you just say no lettuce?
No lettuce. No, actually, I know you do it, but always check it. But I will add this: the chicken, the rice, yes. But ask for the salad dressing.
Oh,
Yeah,
game changer.
On the
Game changer.
side, and put it on any bowl. It doesn't matter if you use salad; they'll give it to you.
Yeah.
And you'll never go back to eating salad. You're welcome.
I go very similar to Brandon. The black beans, I do preferences.
Oh.
Oh, yeah. The fajita veggies.
No, you did not just say no.
Oh, yeah. Amen. You know what's kind of interesting is the one question that's gotten the most like crowd participation is Chipotle. Everyone is so passionate.
Okay, the next one is a really good one. It's a little bit been spoken into, like how to have hard conversations with friends. The next one is how do you balance being a good friend while also trying to help others do the right thing? Example, you know they're doing something they shouldn't, whether sleeping around, doing drugs, cheating, watching porn, but will they get defensive? Where is the line between being supportive and not accepting sin? Hush comes to be proud. Who would like to start?
I guess I will. No, I'll keep it pretty broad, and I think being a good friend is talking to them about these things. Because as hard as it is, you are not loving them the best that you can if you're not calling out these things in your life. Now, that does require a certain level of intimacy in the relationship. You're not going to do that the first time you guys hang out over coffee. Hey, I saw you doing this on Center Street last week. No, that's not where you start. This is meant for friends that are, hey, sorry, didn't mean to call anybody out. But this is the type of thing that you do in a very close relationship, in a very close friendship. And that is how you be a good friend, is starting conversations like this. And yes, they probably will get defensive. But it's something that if you want to love them well, you have to work past that. You have to get past that wall of theirs and really help them through that. Yeah. And I think to do that, it requires vulnerability on your side first. They're not going to want to talk about something with someone who seems perfect. You yourself have to admit some of your mess, some of your stuff going on in your life, for them to be willing to want to share something like that with you and to really have a conversation about that. So don't walk around in all your friendships pretending like you got everything together, because then your friends who are struggling aren't going to want to talk to you about things that they're struggling with.
I would add that your posture in that matters. Yes. And you just look at Jesus. Just study his posture through all of Scripture. And there's our model for that. I'll also say that I've done this, and I've had it go really, really well. And I've done this, and a relationship has never been the same. But I could walk away with it in peace, and also watch that friend turn from the very thing that they were doing. But we were never quite the same again. And I don't know if shame played a part of that, so I think be aware if someone comes to you to talk about it, that you know they're right. Lay your pride down and listen. It may take some time, and maybe things will never be good. But I don't want to be like, oh yeah, it's gonna be great. Not always. But I walked away with peace, and she eventually walked away from healing. And we can be in the same room, and we love each other. But some things didn't go back to the way they were, and that was okay. It was worth it. I loved her enough to risk that. Yeah. And I think you said it beautifully in that first question. Like it's your responsibility. It's your responsibility.
And I think, like you said, like posture, tact, it matters a whole lot. And it's not necessarily completely indicative of how they're going to respond, but it matters a lot. And I'll just say that when you consider your posture, if you're really honest, are you coming from a place of superiority? Or just like, hey, I love you, and I can see this is hurting you, and I want the best for you. Let's talk about this. And I'll just say a really great general rule of thumb is that questions are better than conclusions when you go into that conversation. Asking questions rather than you just telling them already what you've concluded about their life and lifestyle. Hey, I've noticed this. Is everything okay? Hey, have you noticed that you've been doing this more? Is there a reason? Is there something going on? Like, it is a good thing to have the conversation, because it tells your friends, whether they want to hear it or not, it tells them you love them enough to pay attention to them. Like, you've noticed that something's different. And when your friends are paying attention to you, whether you are trying to fly under the radar or not, it's going to feel like love. Any advice on how to keep long-distance friendships strong? Parentheses, post-graduation. Close parentheses. Here you go.
Okay. I do have to say that this is so hard.
Yep.
To navigate this. What?
That was not good. They all started crying when you said that. That was like not encouraging at all.
You could let me finish. This is so hard. That's it. You know, you'll fail. Miserable. Enjoy. Good day. Posture. I'm sorry. Yes, posture. Tax matters. Oh, that was a joke based on what they said. But I do have to say, we should have separated people from sitting next to each other. Okay. But this it's really difficult, and if you let me finish, this is why. Because when you move on to another place, like you go to another place and get a job, or you, wherever that is, whatever that looks like for you, you are trying to build community in the place that you're going, while at the same time, you're trying to continue these friendships and these relationships that are away, like that are long distance. And so it can be really difficult because things are going to be different. Like you just have to admit that. You have to accept that if you're not going to see a person every single day of your life, like it is just going to be different than it was. And some of you are going through this right now. Some of you are going through this in the future. But I think it is beautiful to continue those relationships and those friendships. And it just takes effort. You have to work at it. It's just different. Over the last few years, I've had a bunch of friends that I love and care deeply for move away. This is a part of what we go through every single year is we say goodbye to people that we love or see you later to people that we love. And they're all over the world right now, serving God and doing things and working jobs, and it's amazing. But I think one of the things is the desire to build new community where you are, that is needed to have community right where you are, and then you want to still foster some of these relationships. I would say this, make sure expectations are good and healthy, and that you give effort to these relationships that matter to you. The expectations have to be good and healthy. If your expectation is it's going to always be the same as it was, that is not a healthy expectation. It's going to change, but it can still be amazing and great and incredible. And one of the things that we talked about is, Brandon mentioned it, technology is your friend. You have incredible ability with technology and FaceTime and other things to be able to connect with someone that is not in the place that you are anymore. And so I think also there are some friends that you are going to get to see, and when you see each other, it's like you picked up right where you left off. Yeah. And that's amazing. There's friends that I have that like right when we get in the same room together, it's like we never left. Or if I call them after a month of not talking to them, we just pick right up where we left off. Those are really incredible friendships. And so it just takes effort. It just takes, I'm going to carve out time to talk to this person or spend time with this person. And I think sometimes it's going to be hard because you're going to think, well, you know, man, I've been really busy with a lot of relationships that I'm building here. And my friends that are incredibly important to me, that move, one of the things I pray for them is that they would find community where they are, and they would not need me as much, but they would still want me in their life. I want them to work me out of a job. I don't want to be their go-to anymore every time because they have someone right across the street or at their church community that they're getting involved in, you know, Florida or whatever. But I want to be in their life, and they want to be in my life. And it doesn't mean we can't be there for each other in those ways. There's friends that if they called me right now, I would leave the front of this room and go. But it's just going to be different. And put effort into it. Continue to encourage. Send the text. Make the FaceTime call. You know, whatever it is. But I think we have to accept that is going to be part of relationships sometimes. And it's hard. All of us weep in our separate cars after graduations.
Never together.
Never together. We don't want to see each other cry.
We never stop.
We would die. Like we would literally fall over and die if we watched each other cry. But we all do. And so that's something that you can walk through and continue to foster those relationships. But also, you need community where you're going. And you have to realize that in the place that you are. We failed you. If you look back at this place, and this is the only community that you had for the rest of your life, we have failed you. And so it's kind of crazy because you got to do both. You know, you got to foster that new community and find it, but you also have to continue to build and foster those relationships that you had here. So.
Yeah, I feel like everything I want to say, you said really well. You just, yeah. I have a friend group that I made my freshman year of college. There's 6 of us. We joined a campus ministry small group, and we were in the same small group all 4 years. And we graduated together. I've been in their weddings. There are a bunch of babies now in the group, and there have been years where we barely spoke at all, since college. And yet there have been like months where we've gone every day and someone has said something in the group message. And I think in that, be slow to slap a label on anything of like, oh, this isn't gonna last. Because again, like years of a lack of intimacy in some of those friendships came back around later. And it is a sweet thing when you're in a room with someone where you can pick it up right where you left off. It is a sweet, sweet thing. Yeah. So I think one of the most practical things that I felt loved in that is they remember my birthday every year. I get a birthday gift from that friend group. And there's so many group chats that make this happen for all of us, but it's worth it. And it's just a sweet thing to be remembered on something like that from your friends. So make sure in that intentionality, you're remembering your friends, even if you have to write little notes and reminders in your phone to do so.
Don't you think a sweet spot too is having those friends and then having the friends here?
Yeah.
And like you know that something's going well when your friends here know who those people are that love you well, and vice versa. Like
They've made it in a lot of
that's a
sermon
sweet
illustrations.
I will say I've seen that happen. I recently got to be the best man in my best friend's wedding, and I know where he is. He's covered because of the other groomsmen that were there. I got to know them and meet them, and I know he's good because he has them. I'm not going to see him every week, every day. Now, our relationship has changed. We used to, just like you guys, not talk all the time, barely talk at all. Now we talk at least once a week.
Yeah.
But I know he's covered because he's got the friends there, and he's still got me, even if it's from a little bit different perspective.
Don't you like love them automatically, kind of? Like I love it when people I love meet.
Feels good, yes. Feels good, yeah. He just has so much love. This deep voice from the back is like, so much love. Thank you. Yeah.
Super cool. Just to add like a little bit of spice. How do I get out of the talking phase? Someone tell me.
Hey, tact matters, so I'm not going to say that right now. I want to say this. Yeah, I know. So I do think this is true, and you know, I think at some point someone has to take the initiative and have the guts to say, I want this to be more. Do you? Like, somebody's got to, like what?
Stole my phone.
Like Brittany Botset. Be a Brittany Botset, not a
The
Brittany.
reason that Brandon's here today.
Yeah, I said it.
Brittany knew how to get out of the talking phase.
He would agree. So,
I'm glad she's a better shot than I am.
yeah, definitely. So I mean, but at some point, someone's got to say something. You know, like at some point, you got to look at the person and say, "Hey, I'm interested in you," or "I want this to be something that could potentially be romantic, or more than what it is." And it's just that simple. If you never do that, you'll never know, and you'll always wonder. And so, you know, that's how you get out of that kind of talking zone, or like nobody knows what's going on here. You say something, you communicate what you actually want. And so, I mean, Brandon, they already gave up your story, but you know, there was this time, I'll just use Vince Carroll, who graduated from here a few years ago, where I was out here in the lawn talking to some people, and I saw Aunt Belle mosey on down the hill, and she waved at me and said bye. I said, hey, love you, bye. And she moseys down the hill, gets about halfway down, and I just see Vince Carroll run off the porch, out of the house, door slams open, and he just runs down the hill, and I'm like, oh. Then later, I just see Vince run back up, and he just stops, looks at me, and goes, I in the house, and I was like, okay. They've been dating a few years now, so it worked out. But it's like, somebody's just got to do it, and yeah, I don't know who he has. Yeah. So, sorry, Ann. I love you. Please forgive me.
I'll do the next question so you can.
Okay, real quick. I was just going to say, dating changes all the time. This talking phase is something that has only come up in the last X number of years. And in 10 more years, how we date will probably change all again. But the core of what dating is, evaluation, that we've talked about this semester, that doesn't change. So just continue to be intentional. It's all you can do. And the person that you want to be with will appreciate that.
I feel like we've landed the plane from almost all of these questions in different ways on being willing to just be upfront about what you're thinking and have a conversation, even if you're scared. I love this next question. It made me giggle. It says, how do you find a man that encourages and has a relationship with Christ?
Ooh, I know.
There you go. It's
I know. I have no idea, but I would think that you observe the man, friend the man, and then strike when the man leaves 6 times. Am I right? Thank you. Is that right? Sorry. Let's reel it back in. Let's see who else has some advice.
I will say, when I told the story about how Brittany and I started dating, I forgot to mention that she locked the doors before we get out of the car.
Maybe you ladies should take care of that. Go ahead, answer it. You know?
How do you find a man that encourages and has a relationship with Christ? I think there's a lot of those in this room, probably.
Amen.
I'm not gonna lie.
Katie Rambo would like you to stand up if you are a man that encourages and has a relationship with Christ.
I think it's really hard to find, in dating, it's really hard to find someone like this if you don't know any guys. And I think there is like an encouragement to maybe like befriend some guys in your life and like actually see like this good godly character around you and what it looks like. Even if there's not interest there, I think it's just good. It's a gift to have good guy friends in your life.
Yeah.
And what about like speaking your intentions to people that you trust to perhaps know someone? Networking, we'll call it. I mean,
Networking, I love it.
But you're really choosy with who you ask. We talked about like their networking.
You help me.
I think that like it is good to like ask your friends, like, do you know anyone? Like, this is the kind of person, you know me, and you know other people. Like, I've done this before a couple years ago in singleness. I asked Jessica Breeden, I asked Mike, I asked some other friends that just have a lot of connections, like, do you know anybody? Because I ain't seen anybody. And just ask them, and just got to have that kind of conversation. It's good to look at your trusted and wise people. But again, your trusted people, and ask that too if you're looking and you're ready to date.
Well, and also if this is going to be your thing, your standard, make it your standard.
Yep.
Like if this is what you want, don't settle for less.
Yeah.
This is not this thing. Like don't settle for that. Even if you want this so bad and you desire this so bad. This is out there, and if this is what you desire, this should be what you go after.
Yep. I'm really glad you said that, because it is so tempting to like lower that standard when it's hard to find. So I'm glad you said that.
Here's a pen.
Okay. Write that down. How can you tell whether or not something is emotional abuse or manipulation. How can you tell whether or not something is emotional abuse or manipulation? If you can't tell, your people can, typically. Yeah, that's why I think it's important to date in community. Because sometimes we have blind spots and we have little heart eye emojis in our eyes. We just sometimes don't see certain things because we're quick to justify certain behaviors. And so if you have people that love you and that you trust surrounding you and the person you're dating, again, if you are blind to it, they won't be.
But also, if you're asking yourself that question, there's your first flag. Like, there's the first flag.
And I wouldn't call that a red flag.
I said flag.
I know, I wouldn't call it a red flag because our history does impact our sensitivity to things. And I think that's good to know about yourself. Like the moment we sniff out anything that feels like whether rejection or something that feels like it used to, we might be quick to jump to conclusions that aren't fair. That's why multiple sources of wisdom in your life that are trustworthy is so, so smart.
But then a conversation. I mean, we're just going to keep following back and forth. But then a conversation because unspoken, if you talk yourself down, like it's not that. This is me holding on to stuff from the past.
Yep.
What comes into play is if you can't trust yourself.
Yeah.
So once you've asked the question, something has to be done.
Yes.
A conversation has to take place.
Yes.
Should.
Anything else?
I mean, I just think, like, picture in your mind the situation of you walking into someone that you trust and they're older, and like, if one of you walks into Jessica's house for tea and you want to talk to her about this thing that's going on in your relationship, and like, you start talking about it and you're like, I don't know if this is a big deal or if it matters, but like, I've been seeing this and and she's like, no. Like, you know, like, this is not good. You know, that's how you know. It's like, okay, I trust this person in my life to speak into it, and they see the manipulation of this, and they see, like, that this is what it is, and you don't see it. Like, I think you can trust that, you know? It's like, wow, you know, it might open up your eyes to that thing that's going on, so.
What is the best breakup song? I think as a staff, we'll make a Spotify album for you. We'll put the QR code on the link tree, and
Let's do it.
we'll have it up. I love this plan.
Yeah.
New people in the picture, what's happening?
Break them out. Break them out. Yeah. You what? Okay, Jessica Breeden. What? Okay. We'll put them on the album, but Thinking About Love by Wild Rivers, great breakup song.
It's a great
If you want to go old school, back in the day, End of the Road by Boyz II Men. But maybe not. It might be
It's a
disqualified.
little manipulative. Mike and I.
It is. It's a little manipulative, yeah. But in the video, their outfits are fire. Okay. Taylor Swift, Exile. That's a good one. Moving on.
Okay. Speaking of, how do I navigate a breakup?
Sorry.
What do I do when relationships fail?
Someone said, uh-oh.
That's so good. I think you navigate it like you navigate any other hard thing. You are gracious toward yourself. I think you surround yourself with people that love you. You remember that's not indicative of your value. It's not where that comes from. And you speak truth to yourself over uncertainty or confusion or heartbreak or whatever has led to the breakup, whether it was your decision or not. I think it's really wise. And this is in romantic relationship breakups, but also friendship breakups and any relationship that ends. I think it's really wise to name it as what it is. It is grief. And grief is grief. There is no roadmap. There is no timeline, which is just really not helpful, a helpful aspect about it. But when you name it, as that, I think it helps you process. Because in grieving a relationship, it's not just grieving that person. It's also grieving the plans that you made with them. And there's just a lot in that to unpack. And like we said, there's no necessary timeline in that, and that is why it is so good to have people around you that love you and see you and ask you good questions, whether you are clearly having a hard time or fronting like you are not, or somewhere in a matter if you're loving life post-relationship end, wherever you fall, for the highs and lows, it is good to have people that you trust enough to lean on in that. And if you are the person that is being leaned on from someone who is hurting from a relationship ending, patience and understanding go a long way for something that has no timeline and no roadmap. Patience and understanding are good, and they are important, and there's a long time where those stay and those stand around. But also I think while patience and understanding matter, at times so does bossing them around a little bit and pulling them out of bed if that's necessary, and telling them we're actually going to go outside today. And it's okay to boss your friends around a little bit if this timeline is lasting a long time, and make sure they're still taking good care of themselves as they're grieving a hard thing. Good. Anything else?
You absolutely said it all.
Neato.
I give you
Okay. We're almost done. Just the last couple here. Yeah. Okay. God doesn't promise marriage, but what would you say to the person who is really seeking that and it's a desire of their heart? That's a good question.
Somebody start.
I think that desire, we want all sorts of things in life. And I can't think of anything else where people sort of attach a weighting to it to the same degree, except maybe if you want a child and that's not happening. Those two things seem to hold this different kind of weight. But if we could all, as a society, simmer down, I think that would be, just in general, apply that however you see fit right now.
Write that down.
Yeah. But if we could all simmer down and just realize the timeline is going to look so different. And there's so much life to be lived in the meantime. So if you're desiring it, great. Don't give up on that. Like, until whenever. You can hold that. You can hold that dream in one hand, though, and like fully live in the other. And you might be thinking that's easy for you to say because you're married. But I know what it's like to have a desire for something that's just not coming to fruition. And in that, just totally dismiss everything that is. And we talked about life to the abundance last week. And that's like just forfeiting the abundance that's there when we do that.
I know we use the example in looking for who to date of looking for someone who's running alongside you already. And that means, just like Jessica said, that you have to still be paying attention to everything else. You still have to be running the race of life. It can't be your primary focus in that seeking. Not that you ever put it aside, but that you still have to be pursuing a relationship with Jesus. You still have to be pursuing life to the fullest while you are looking for that. Because you're going to find that person running alongside you in that eventually.
Yeah, the only thing I wrote down was don't miss out on what is, which you guys said. So, you know. I did. Yeah.
That was a breakdown.
Yeah, well, you said it's
Okay.
It's hard, not math.
Let's keep going. It's kind of part B to that question, and I think out of all the questions from tonight, this is one of my favorite ones. I've been thinking a lot about this question this week. It says, how do you handle feelings of insecurity and not being wanted or not being good enough as the perceived reason for your singleness, rather than the truth that God just doesn't have you in a dating season right now? I'm going to read it one more time. How do you handle feelings of insecurity and not being wanted or not being good enough as a perceived reason for your singleness, rather than the truth that God just doesn't have you in a dating season right now? I think this question is really, I just applaud whoever wrote it, because I think you put to words one of the hardest parts about singleness, is the lies that accompany it often when you sit in it for a long time. And I think I love what you said about like holding both things. Like, yeah, there's like longing, and you're allowed to even like lament a little in that longing, but also like holding on to everything that God's offering you right now in your singleness. And I think sometimes, like we talked about, there is a reason for your singleness. Sometimes there's maybe not a clear reason for your singleness, but it's just never one of the things that we're listed in this question. And I think it's easy in our culture that values a certain standard of attractiveness really higher than anything else. It's easy to land here. Oh, well, if I'm single, then I'm not fill in the blank enough. Like this must be the reason that no one is interested. And while it may be easy to find yourself here, I mean, I've found myself there before in singleness. It's just not true. Like, it's a lie. And it's so important to name that as a lie. And even the question says, rather than the truth, that like you already have named it as what it is. But I also say that when you feel that way about yourself, like this is, I'm not wanted or not worthy or not fill in the blank, whatever it is for you, I think it's really easy to build an idol around being wanted. And when you do that, when you do start dating, it just makes you act all kinds of stupid. Because you've built an idol around something that you're never supposed to chase and bow down to, around being wanted by another person, something maybe you never thought would happen, then it finally does, and then you act a fool. And the truth is, if you feel this way now, you're going to carry that with you into dating. I have before. Carry those same insecurities into dating relationships. You can carry it into marriage. You can carry it all the way. And if you continuously build a pattern around telling yourself, I'm not fill in the blank enough, I'm not pretty enough, I'm not good enough, I'm not whatever enough, that doesn't go away when a magical person walks into your life and loves you. You carry it with you. And the reason I say that is the work for that starts now, not later. Like right now, of shutting down lies, bossing yourself around, and taking back really like the beautiful parts of being single. Because I think you guys know the enemy will do anything to shut you down and shut you up and isolate you, and he'll use this if you let him. But singleness just became one of the things that I'm just not willing to surrender that to enemy lines, for the enemy to use that as ammunition against the person that God made you to be. I don't have time for that. There is so much of a narrative that we walk in all the time of just not enoughness, and I'm just not going to be a voice that adds to that when it comes to singleness.
Well, I think when we make an idol out of it, we forget that we're already loved and wanted to be good. Because that's already happening in our lives all over the place. And like, we miss that, what is, for what we want to be. And, you know, we can enjoy what is and still desire what will hopefully be at some point.
I think a good question, I hope I don't butcher this, I just read this morning, I was like, that was so good, and then it applies here, but let me say it correctly. A good question to ask yourself would be, am I living out of a place of love and being loved, or am I living for love? What is your motive, and what are you drawing from there?
Brandon. Brandon talked about bringing godly couples into your life. What does that look like practically? How does someone do that?
I think first recognizing the examples you already may have in your life, and I know that's not the case for everybody, but I know personally I had parents, and by working here I had my somewhat. No, I didn't. Well, I had Karen, sorry. But no. But other than that, I think it takes boldness, and I think it takes being in a Christian community, in a strong, positive influence of the community. Because when it came to getting to know the Bredens, it did not come out of me directly approaching them. It came out of me volunteering at the camp and getting to observe their lives from a good distance and seeing that I really enjoyed what they were doing in their marriage, and I saw the fruit of their marriage. And that told me, I need to go talk to David, and I want to get advice from him about their marriage. Because, not that I'm going to carbon copy it, but I want to take some things that you guys are doing and apply it in our own marriage. But I think it takes that, putting yourself in positions to find them, and that may look like going to the leadership somewhere, at a church or here. We would love to point you at some amazing couples that can influence your marriage. There's two right here. So I think just being bold. Oh! That was not big. I honestly did not.
Right.
You were like,
You're just right.
But no, so it takes boldness, it takes being in the community already and asking around. Asking the people that you trust. They may know a couple that you can learn from. And please just come talk to us. We want to help you with that. We can point you to them, and so can so many others.
Can I say it's been such a help to my marriage to think that you're watching and learning. Like, it changes things. So there are couples out there that want to talk to you, and we learn things. We learn things, but also I want to tell you how important it is that you do this, because you saying that is part of the redemption story of our marriage. Because I had to go looking. I didn't have it when I looked left and right in my life growing up. Yeah. And so that you could see something in our marriage that was worth getting to know more about, praise God. Like, it's worth the work to find someone.
yeah. The last question, we were kind of all in agreement for it. Was if you could do one more message in the Uncensored series, what would it be on? And I think like the big one was just like brokenness in family relationships, and digging into that and how to navigate that well, and in that even like talking just about like when relationships end, like whether breakups or torn apart family relationships, either or, is probably the direction that we would have gone in if we had another week built in. And we're going to talk a little bit about some of that next week. So in part B of the panel, we are going to talk about some family questions that came in. We're going to talk about marriage, and there are a lot of spicy sex questions that you guys put in there. And so
Here we go.
Buckle up.
Yeah.
I can't wait. It's going to be so fun.
Yeah.
Nothing.
That was beautiful.
Thank you. Oh, we're all gonna sing. Thank you guys for sitting still a little bit extra longer tonight. We're gonna ask the worship team to make their way up here because they have a lot to thank for growth. And then we're gonna get out of the way. So sorry, we forget.